Hey everyone, Matthew here. It's actually pretty late on Valentine's Day, but I wanted to make a video sharing a pretty surprising chronograph that I recently got my hands on. This one is from Citizen Watch Company. They make a lot of quartz watches, specifically the Eco Drive models, which I think they're well known for, and this is one of them. So this chronograph, what I think is surprising about it is that it has this unique dial layout with the subdials as a chronograph. So there's of course a large chronograph seconds hand that goes around the dial. It has a tachometer bezel, but the layout I think really stood out to me is that it sort of has this dark black subdial right at the top, and then in a sort of a figure eight pattern it has another subdial below the seconds hand in the middle for small seconds. And in addition to that, there's this small little 24-hour subdial off to the left, and then of course the date and sort of the standard spot at the 3 o'clock position on the dial. Now the dial color itself is not white. I would call it an off-white. It's not quite a cream. It's possibly a cream. Not quite a beige. Definitely a white, but definitely a sort of a toned down white. Not as garish, not as standout, not as bright, I think. And there's a reason for that. I think the reason that it's not perfectly white is that it has to let light through the dial so that the Eco Drive solar panel underneath the dial can capture that light and then turn that light into energy. So I think they went with like sort of a translucent white color, but it's not bad. I actually like the dial. I think it looks pretty nice. So some of the details of the watch, it's 44 millimeters wide, wears quite large. It's 12 millimeters tall in terms of the case and crystal thickness. The band is 22 millimeters wide. It comes with a brown racing leather strap bracelet, but I currently have it on a elastic black strap that's quite a bit just more less fancy than the leather for sure, but it does sort of complement the black tachometer on the bezel and the black subdial. So I think it's a decent elastic bracelet that I have on it right now, but definitely not the original leather strap that it comes with. Now, going back to the dial, some of the impressions I have is that the date is very deep set within the dial. It's quite small, and if you turn the watch at an angle, you're going to completely just obscure the date there. And the reason for that, again, going back to this Eco Drive technology, is because they had to make the dial itself very thick with that solar panel in order to capture the light. And so the plate with the dates being so much deeper, it just sort of gets buried in there, and it's kind of hard to see at most angles. So you really have to be over it. The 24-hour subdial, the small subdial at the 9 o'clock position on the dial, great feature to have. So this is a racing style watch. The indices, they do not have the hours. In fact, they only have 10-minute increments in terms of the labeled indices. So 10, 20, 30, 40, and 50 in their positions. So taking away the hour, right, like if you're racing, if you're in a different time zone, that 24-hour subdial I think is just a very nice feature. And it's not sort of overbearing like you'd get with a GMT, where it's really sort of dominates it's a large second hand that goes around the watch. But just a small little subdial at the 9 o'clock position, I think is just very helpful and very sort of quiet. It doesn't stand out, but something there it's nice to have. In terms of the styling of the hour and the second hand itself, they are in the style of a pencil or an obelisk, where they sort of have a fixed width, and then they sort of taper to that like classic triangle point. So they're nice hands. They have some lume on there, pretty legible, not anything great, but that gets the job done at night for sure. In terms of the tachometer seconds hand, it's this orange, it's the width of a hair. I mean, it's so small, very lightweight, but that it really complements with the small orange around the subdial at the 12 o'clock position, which is also outlined in this very slight orange. And something about it just makes the whole watch a little bit more aggressive. So being sort of this off-white dial in the black, it's sort of like a sort of an upscale watch. Like, you could definitely wear this in sort of a more professional dress position, I think. Even though it is sort of a sporty watch, being a chronograph, specifically like in a racing style with that, but just the touch of color makes it so much more of an aggressive watch, I think. This is what really stood out for me. This is why I was surprised by this watch. Not only the unique layout, but also just the bit of design styling that can make this just a fantastic looking watch. So before moving off the dial, one thing else I want to mention about the EcoDrive technology is that if you don't wear this watch for a long time, because there's no replaceable battery, it sort of gets to the power from the solar through the dial. If you leave this in a drawer where it's dark for, I believe, more than 6 months, it will stop working. It will run out of power because it's not getting energy through that dial from the sun. So this is a little different to think about from a traditional quartz watch that's battery powered. We could leave it for maybe like a year or two before having to replace the battery. I'm wearing a quartz right now, Shinola, and I think the battery is good for between like 2 to 5 years, I think they said when I bought it. But this one, if you don't wear it or you leave it in the dark, which you probably are with your watches, it won't get recharged, and then you'll have to take it out and probably leave it under light for an hour or two to get some of that charge back and then reset it. So something to think about with EcoDrive. That's not something I really thought about at first, but I think their newest models of EcoDrive have the ability to sort of power down the watch, and so it can last for, I think they said, 7 years in the dark, to solve this problem of people not using a watch for a while and thinking it's dead. But the fact that you don't have to get a battery replacement, that you can just boot the watch up again when you leave it in the light for a little while, definitely positive, definitely a plus, just something to mention in terms of the EcoDrive. Now, some other things to mention. The crystal is mineral, so this one is definitely scratched up. It has definitely seen several years of wear on this one for sure. And it is flat, and if you angle it at a sort of a severe angle, I would say like maybe 160 degrees, you do get some lensing effect. So you do it will obscure your angle of the watch if you view it at a certain angle. Moving on to the case. It is a stainless steel case in brushed polish with a predominantly brushed finish. There is some polish around some of the front-facing portions of the case and around the bezel as well. There's a little bit of polishing. Definitely not significant. Doesn't really stand out. In fact, the brushing as well isn't that significant on the watch. On the side, there's the typical chronograph pushers, as well as the crown, which is not a screw-down crown. You can just pull it out, set it. The seconds do hack on this model, which is very nice to have. The water resistance is 100 meters. Now, my overall impressions of the watch, I really, really like the styling. As I've mentioned, the subdial, the layout, and the choice of subdials themselves, with the 24-hour subdial, very small, the small seconds hand at the 6 o'clock, as well as the coloring scheme, all make this a very attractive chronograph to add to your collection, I would say. I would love to have this watch in my collection. However, in terms of quality, this is definitely not a standout quality piece to me. The weight of the watch feels sort of lightweight for the size. It feels like it's missing something. This is standard with quartz watches, where you don't have all the mechanical inner metal workings that give it that nice heft that makes it feel sort of more expensive. But something about the polish on the case, the flatness. The best way I can describe this watch, despite being round, is that it has a very sort of squared off feeling to it. It doesn't feel like something that's very delicately made. It sort of feels sort of mass produced, I would say. I don't know how to describe it. It just sort of has that feel. Like the pushers, they're pretty squishy. There's a lot of give between when you have to push it in and when the chronograph will start measuring. It just feels very soft, very sort of mass produced. And looking online, the system inside of this, the caliber of movement that they use, is replicated in many other designs in other watches. So the same dial layout that they've gone with this watch. There's so many different variations of it that Citizen sells, and this is just the brand that Citizen is. They make consumer level entry-level watches, and there's certainly a lot to the watch with, as I've mentioned, eco-drive technology, the 100 meters of water resistance. I mean, the stainless steel case is quite well done. The leather band it comes with, I think, could be quite nice. So all the things add up to a very nice watch. But really, the reason I want this watch is because of the styling. It really stood out to me, and it's for your first chronograph, this could be it. This could definitely be worth it. I think your friends, you'll get comments from your friends wearing this watch. It doesn't quite have the panda dial that is so popular on the chronograph watches. It sort of has like a half panda, but then rotated. So something to keep in mind. But something very attractive about the coloring scheme as well. That little pop of orange that makes it just so much more aggressive and really made this watch stand out to me. So with that, I'm gonna end the video. Thanks for watching, and have a good night.